Hi there. Today I want to talk to you about the preposition da. When do we use it? Should we use de? Should we use da? I don't want you to have to guess. So let this video be your go-to for checking up on whether you're using it the way you ought to. Let's look at de and da side by side. Now in English, all you need is of. Da, 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 da. Of is all you need. Of works for both of those, and you can figure out by context what is going on. So, oh, I need a glass of whiskey. Oh, do you want a glass of whiskey? Oh, I broke my glass of whiskey. Oh, I spilled my glass of whiskey. Those are different things, but we're using kind of the same wording there. So in Esperanto, you don't do that. You specify so things are even clearer. When to use da? Well, think of it this way. De, de, stands for does everything. It doesn't really do everything, but it has a much wider use. You're going to use it more often than you use da. Because da, da, is specifically only used to describe amount. So if you're describing an amount of something, that's probably going to be a chance to use da. Da must show quantity, and it must tell you how much of something, or kiom. It can also tell you what the thing is, but on top of saying what it is, it'll also say how much of what it is at stake or in use. For example, if someone asked, oh, kion vi trinkis? Oh, what did you drink? You could simply say, mi trinkis kafon. I drank coffee. But in English, if I said, oh, what are you drinking there? Oh, you're drinking coffee. Okay. How much are you drinking? Coffee. No, I know you're drinking coffee, but how much? Coffee? That doesn't work, right? You can't answer a how much question with just a noun stating what kind of beverage it is. It doesn't line up. You need to express a measurement of some kind. Yes, how much? This much. So let's look for a this much word. How do we express that? Kiom, how much, instead of what, but how much you drank. Kiom vi trinkis? Tason da kafo, or mi trinkis tason da kafo. Okay, so how much did you drink? I drank a cup of coffee. I drank just one cup. Don't worry, I don't want to be up all night with all that caffeine, so I didn't drink 2 cups. I just drank 1 cup. At the same time, you're also letting slip what it is you're drinking. You're answering 2 questions for the price of 1. How much? A cup. And what was it? It was a cup of coffee. So there you go. This does double duty. That's how much and what. So if you're not answering how much, you shouldn't be using da there. Think of da phrases as meaning, or reword them in your brain to be, a blank's worth of something, or a blankful of something. That's been really helpful for me to make sure that I'm not using it when I shouldn't. So if you look at this earlier example here, tason de coffee. How much did you drink? I drank a cup's worth of coffee. Oh, that's not too much caffeine. You won't be up all night. Great. How much did you drink? I drank a cup full of coffee. Oh, that's not too much. Great. Okay, cool. You see where it totally fits to say a blank's worth of something or a blankful of something. So that's where you would want to use it. Now, let's look at where we should not use da. When not to use da. You can't measure it, then you shouldn't use da. Don't use da if you can't measure a thing. For example, if you say litro da akvo, a liter of water, well, that's just fine. Yep, a liter's worth of water. How much water did you drink? Kiom? Litron da akvo. Oh, a liter. Yeah, that's good. You're staying hydrated. Cool. But look at some of the other examples, some other phrasings here. Perdo da akvo. A loss of water. We're in the desert and we have 1 water bottle and you spilled it over and, oh no, a loss of water. We're going to die now. Well, would you quantify or measure that? Can you say a loss's worth of water or a lossful of water? Nope. All right, that's already red flag. I probably shouldn't use da here. Can you cut it in half? I could say, oh, I had a half a liter of water, or I had 2 liters of water. Would you say I had half a loss? Would you say I had 2 loss of? No, you wouldn't. And because of that, you would say perdo de akvo. There was a certain amount spilled, yes, but with this phrasing and the focus on the loss itself, you don't measure anything out. So you wouldn't say da, you'd say de. Similarly, look at these examples. Manko de akvo would be a lack or a want of water. Well, you don't have half a want or half a lack or twice a lack and a lass. You simply have a lack of something. So you say manko de akvo. Or aldono would be an addition of water. Oh yes, I was making a potion, I added some water and oh poof, now it all is great. So well, you didn't do half an addition, you either added it or you didn't. You either have a loss or you don't have a loss, or you have a lack or not. So aldono de akvo. Now you can separately specify just how much water it was, but that's a separate statement that's needed. So you wouldn't say an addition's worth of water or a lack's worth of water. That's why there's frowny faces next to those. So if you can't measure it, don't use da, okay? If you can't quantify it or maybe add a number to it, don't use da there. Similarly, don't use da la. If you are being specific enough to where you need to have la vino or la beigneto, the donuts, the specific donuts or something, then you shouldn't use da. A fistful of dollars is a bad idea, like putting Italian actors in a Western. Who does that? Now, that's nothing against Italian actors. That's because A Fistful of Dollars is a famous spaghetti Western. They're called spaghetti Westerns because there's a time where a bunch of Italians were making Western movies because they thought that was so cool and quaint, that whole Western genre. In Italy, there's not a Wild West, so you don't have that. Even though, historically speaking, in the 1800s, there weren't a lot of Italians immigrating to that part of the United States. They were living in like New York City or something if they were to move there. So it's a little funky, but it was a popular genre. So Italians and a Western, what? Similarly, da, la, what? Have that be similarly confusing to you. And so why is that not good? Well, you need it to be a general word. So you can have vino, litron da vino, a liter of wine, but if it's a specific wine, so if I had my favorite bottle of wines right there, and then I walk in and go, wait a second, mankas iom de la vino. I notice that bottle's opened and some of it is missing. Oh no! A lack, there is a lack of some of the wine. So I wouldn't say da, I would say de la vino. Minor havas man plenon da dolaroi. And here's an example where you would use da. I say a fistful of dollars or a dollars. So I'll say, oh, I only have a handful of dollars. And that's just general, not of the dollars, the specifically marked counterfeit bills. I'm not specifying, I'm just saying a handful's worth of dollars or a handful amount of dollars. Here's another no-no. No Dalai Lamas. I was going to draw a llama, I didn't have any room, but picture a big old llama. Dalai Lama, what do I mean by that? No da before a personal pronoun. Now you wouldn't often use da li or da she or da me, but you might use da ili or da ji. That might be a temptation for you to go, oh, some of the wine is missing, well, iom da ji. You wouldn't do that either, okay? You'd have to say de ji. Kia bona vino, what a great or good wine. Mi trinkis botelon, I drank a bottle. Ĉu vi volas iom de ji? Do you want some of it? Ah, so you see, I could see you being tempted. We're pouring out and doing measurements here, so I'm about to use da, right? No, you want some of it. Well, of it means de ji. Final notes about da. No accusative after da, ever. Now, I'm not talking about turning da into don, nothing like that. I'm saying the word that comes after da, like litron da akvo, you never would put an N, the accusative N there, at the end of akvon. So you wouldn't say litron da akvon. No, no, no. Because the accusative, if it belongs anywhere, belongs on the quantity word. We're talking about how much coffee you drink? I drank a cup of coffee. The cup is the direct object. The fact that you're adding da kafo, you're just describing it, that's a separate thing that you can trim out if you need to. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the cup, the amount, because it's answering what? No, no. How much? So, how much? Litron. That's how much. Da akvo, that's fine, but don't put da akvon. Never, ever, ever. Okay? That's one of those rules you can just take to the bank. Now, let's look at the difference between glason da and glason de. Now, this is a thing that is, a lot of people get mixed up. I've mixed it up before. So, glason da is the drink. Glason de is the cup, the receptacle itself. Okay? I'll give you an example. Mi trinkis glason da vino el glaso de vino. I drank a glass of wine out of a glass for wine. So I drank a glass worth of wine, one full glass of wine I drank. And what did I drink it out of? A water bottle? You can put wine in just about anything. A bucket, a pot, a pan. What? No, I drank it out of a glass intended for wine. A glass built for wine, a wine glass. So you see the difference there? Glasso de vino is just the empty glass itself. You fill it up. Now we're talking about glass as a measurement of the substance. So now it's glasson da. So let's look at some sentences here so you know when to use which one. Mi rompis glason de vino. I broke what? You can't break a liquid. I mean, maybe if you froze it and then broke the not ice cube, but wine cube, maybe you could break that. But yeah, if I say I broke the glass, it's clearly the glass receptacle made of, hard substance that can shatter. So, mi rompis glason de vino. But if I said, mi versis glason da vino. Oh, I poured what? Well, you don't really pour glass, okay? You pour the liquid. So, mi versis glason da vino. I poured a glass of wine. Now, here's one that could go either way, depending on the context and the situation. Mi mendis glason de vino or da vino? Well, what would I be saying in both cases? I ordered a glass of wine. Now, if I was at home shopping on Amazon, redoing my kitchen, wanting to get some new cutlery and new silverware and stuff like that, well, then I might be ordering a wine glass itself to be filled at a later date. But if I was at a restaurant, most restaurants don't sell you or let you leave with the drinking receptacles, do they? No, you're paying for the liquid. That's what you take with you when you leave. So if I was at a restaurant, I'd say glason da vino, but if I was on Amazon or at Bed Bath & Beyond, they don't sell you wine there, or at least not by the glass. You'd have to buy a whole bottle and take it home and drink it. Then you would say de. Now, one final way to keep track of glason da instead of glason de is this little ditty that I came up with to the tune of Camptown Races. When you measure out a cup, do-da, do-da. When you fill those glasses up, no, you don't use de. So, if you're talking about the liquid, then yes, do use the word da. But if you're talking about the glass, the receptacle itself, just use de. So, this is a glass designated for this. It's a wine glass or a coffee cup. Tason de cafo. See the difference? Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.